Looking at target 6D, calculate the base area and volume of prisms, cylinders, pyramids, and cones. So lots of stuff. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is finding the base area and volume of prisms and cylinders by applying the correct area and volume formulas. All right. Area should be super easy, but we are going to review it. Area of a rectangle. We know what the area of a rectangle is. Right? The area of a rectangle is length times width. Easy enough. Area of a triangle. We should also know this, but again, we are going to review it. Area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Remember, your base and your height have to meet at a right angle. That's one thing we have to remember. So we have to choose the two lines that meet at a right angle or are perpendicular to each other. Okay? And finally, the area of a circle, area equals pi r squared. Okay? Again, this is something we'll have to remember. Pi r squared is our area of a circle, where r is your radius. Okay? So looking at some examples. Okay? Again, area of a rectangle, area equals length times width. Right, so I'm just multiplying those two sides. 15 times 6, which is 90 feet. And since I used two things, it's 90 feet squared. It's two-dimensional. Okay, so squared. Area of a triangle, area equals 1/2 base times height. Again, the base and height have to meet at a right angle, so I'm using this side and this side. Area equals 1/2. My base is 14. My height is 5. Okay. I can type that directly into a calculator and I get 35. And I'm just going to say this doesn't have a unit to it, so I'll say 35 units squared, whatever the unit happens to be. Last example, our circle. Area equals pi r squared. Pi times my radius is here. When we're doing these problems, we don't type pi into the calculator. I'm just going to do 9 squared. 9 squared. I don't know what just happened. 9 squared, sorry there, 81. So 81, we then attach pi to the end, and then I put my units. Okay, so that's a little different for the area of a circle. All right, so those are area formulas. We'll keep going through them as we're doing the volume because they're also used in the base area and the volume. All right, so our first set of things we're going to look at is the volume of a rectangular prism. Okay, so this is just a box. That's what a rectangular prism is. Your rectangular prism is your fancy name for a box. So volume equals, I don't know what that is. That's weird. Volume equals length times width times height. Okay, so volume equals length times width times height. Okay. So our base area, the first thing it's asking for is the base area. The area of a rectangular prism is still area equals length times width. So not the volume yet, that's down here. Just your area equals, so my base area, base means the bottom. So I'm looking at numbers on the bottom, is 16 times 13. 16 times 13 is 208 feet squared. Your area is squared. Volume. Volume equals length times width times height. Length times width, right, times height. So now I have 16 times 13 times 22. Ooh. Just typing like I had my calculator open. 16 times 13 times 22. And I get 4,000 576. Feet. Now I used 3 numbers, so it's cubed. Okay, volume, we have a cubed unit. Be very careful with that. Okay, 4,576 feet cubed. Looking at our next one, our base area. Again, area equals length times width. Then 24 times 20. 24 times 20 is 480. So that's 480 centimeters. Again, this is just area, so it's centimeters squared. Volume equals length times width times height. So our volume is 24, our length and our width, times 20. Now I need to include my height, times 10. 24 times 20. I'm typing again. I'm bad at this. Calculator. 24 times 20 times 10. We get 4,800. Centimeters. Now this is a volume, and volume has a cubic unit. So 4,800 centimeters cubed. Okay. Be very careful that you pay attention to what the question is asking for, especially on quizzes and tests. Some questions will be asking for your base area. Some questions will be asking for your volume. Okay, so you've got to make sure that you're doing both of those, or that you're paying attention to both of those. All right, let's look at the next page really quick. So that was a rectangular prism. The next thing we're going to look at is a triangular prism. Okay? For this, we're going to start again by finding our base area. Our base area comes from, right, the triangle. Right? Our base area of a triangular prism is a triangle. So if you look, I have the triangle here, and I have the triangle here. Okay? They're the same triangle. So I have to look at the right angle. So I have one is 4, I think that's in centimeters, and then this is 6, just like this is 6. Okay? So my area is 1/2 base times height. 1/2. My base, right, is 6. My height is 4. Okay? My 1 divided by 2 times 6 times 4. I get 12. Right, so that's 12 centimeters squared. Okay? Now, for volume, if you look here, my volume of a triangular prism, they've changed they call that base to C and the height to A, just so you don't get confused between your heights. So I have the 2 pieces of my triangle, okay, that's for your base area, and then I have the length that connects the triangles. That's your height, okay, and that's true for all like prisms, cylinders. So height connects the triangles. Because if you look, this triangular prism is pretty much what we would call it got like knocked over on its side. Okay, if it was like actually the base, it'd be standing upright, but we pushed it over. Pushing it over doesn't change its volume though. Okay, so be careful with that. Your height is what connects the triangles. So volume equals 1/2 A times C times your height. A and C is exactly what we just did here. So 1/2, 6, and 4. And then my height, the length that connects the triangle, it can come from any of those, but I see that 11 right there. Okay. So again, typing this into my calculator, 1/2 times 6 times 4 times 11. Oh yeah, 132. That's right. I got confused with my mental math. 132. And again, this is centimeters, and now that I'm in volume, it's cubes. Okay? So triangles are a little more difficult, but that's okay. So base area. So again, area equals 1/2 base times height. So I'm looking at my triangles. Okay? Where they meet at the right angle is these two sides. So 12 and 5 are the numbers I'm going to use there. So 1/2 times 12 times 5 is 30. So that's 30 centimeters squared. Okay. Now for our volume. The first part, right, is the same. We're just using slightly different letters, but it's the same. 1/2 times your triangle times your height, right? And remember, your height's what connects to any of these measurements, okay? They're all the same, so they'll only write it once. Okay, so again, your volume equals, so it's just like what we did, 1/2 and 12 and 5 come from your triangle. And then your height is 9. That's what connects that. 1/2 times 12 times 5 times 9. And we get 270. Still in centimeters, but now since it's volume, it's cubes. Okay. All right, so that's triangular prisms. The last thing we're going to look at is cylinders. Okay. So same type of concept as what we've been seeing for the last few. Just like we saw the circle, right? The area of a circle was pi r squared. So we have pi r squared, and then we just multiply it by the height. Okay? So we'll start with our base area. So I'm going to be looking at my circle. Well, if you notice, it's giving you this whole distance across as 10. Okay? I just want to write down here, diameter equals whole length across. Radius equals half the length across a circle, okay? So if I look here, this gives me my diameter. So my diameter, which I'm just going to write d, equals 10. My radius equals half of my diameter. 1/2 times 10 equals 5. Okay, so my radius here, my r, is 5. So if you're given the diameter, don't forget to cut your radius in half. So I have pi times 5 squared. Again, I only type the 5 into the 5 squared into the calculator, so I get 25 pi centimeters area, so it's squared. For my volume, pi r squared times height. Again, that pi r squared is exactly what we just did. I have pi and then 5 squared. And then my height, my height is just like the triangles. It's what connects the circles. So sometimes it'll be on this side, sometimes it'll be on this side, right? But I have 12. So again, I can do 5 squared times 12. and I get 300 centimeters cubed. Okay. Last problem. Starting with my area. Area equals pi r squared. Well, this one, it gives you just this half length across, so I don't have to find my radius. It is just 3 squared. 3 squared is 9, so 9 pi centimeters squared. Great. Then, volume equals pi r squared times the height. Again, that pi r squared I don't know why it does that. I'll make it a little smaller so we can fit it all in. That pi r squared is exactly what we just did up here. It's pi times 3 squared, then times our height, which is 8. Right? It's what connects the circles. And if I just type that in the calculator, I have 3 squared times 8, I get 72. Now this is centimeters cubed. Alright, that is it. Go ahead, work on the activity for D1.